while I'm waiting for my United States debit card and waiting for them to fix something with Kinesis Velocity tokens so I can buy it, I thought I'll use this time in the middle here and do an analysis of the physical audits, the audits of the physical gold and silver that they say they have in the vaults. So I went through and I did an analysis, and I have a little bit more experience with audits than many people, so I thought this might be some way I can help the Kinesis community here. So here are my thoughts. First off, I get these people that are just not very thoughtful. I'm trying to use kind words here, but several people have said, oh, Kinesis is a Ponzi scheme. These people don't even know what a Ponzi scheme is. Kinesis is the opposite of a Ponzi scheme. You buy a gram of gold, they buy a gram of gold and put it in the vault. You buy an ounce of silver, they buy an ounce of silver and put it in the vault. There's a one-to-one correlation, except for some minor, couple of days timing differences for them to actually, acquire the gold and silver and, get it set up in there. But by and large, it's backed, your Kinesis tokens are backed by real physical gold and silver. This is what makes Kinesis unique and different from all the other stupid crypto tokens out there that are backed by absolutely nothing. So anyways, there you go. There's my rant for the day. Let's brainstorm here. What would a purpose of an audit like this be? Why would Kinesis incur all this expense and such? Well, they already are confident that the gold and silver is there because they know they've been buying and putting in there. So they're not doing this for them, mostly. They're doing it for us, to give their customers, to give us confidence that our tokens are indeed backed by physical gold and silver. So keep in mind that that's the purpose. The purpose is not to impress themselves or to convince them primarily, although they want that too, but it's always good to have a double check. But primarily the audit's purpose is for us. So here you can see from their company news page, emphasis on trust, and they're getting back to the biannual audits. They unfortunately were not able to get auditors to do the audits during COVID. I have no problem with that. I don't know why anybody would. But they're back on schedule. So twice a year is what we're looking at here. There are currently 3 audit reports available on the website, including the latest one, which is for the auditing occurred in late June, and the report was issued in August, I believe. Here's a summary letter from Tom Coughlin, the CEO, and a couple things I wanted to point out here. So the audit occurred on these 3 days in June, and there's a note here for the few locations that they could not audit. Letters of verification were ordered. So I was curious about this, and when you look at the end of the report, you can see that there's 2 vaulting services that would not allow auditors in. Now, at first reaction, you might freak out about this, but don't get mad about this. This is actually pretty normal in the business world. So here's how it works. Let me equate this to software. Let's say you use Oracle's NetSuite software for your general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, all your accounting software, all right? Well, you and 50,000 other businesses, I don't know the exact number, but thousands of other businesses use the same software. Well, if every one of these 50,000 companies sent auditors in to do an audit, Oracle would spend nothing of their time except for hosting auditors who are running around and tearing the place up. So how do you handle this situation? Well, what you do is you hire one reputable audit firm who conducts an audit, right? In this case, it'd be typically a SOC 1 Type 2 report, or maybe a SOC 2 report, whatever. And then that one report is shared with all 50,000 customers, right? So instead of 50,000 audit teams coming in, you have one audit team, they do a good job, and they share the information with everybody. This is kind of the same situation that you have with a couple of these vaulting services. One is in Asia, actually both I think were in Asia. No, one was in Turkey, the other was in Asia. They just can't have can't have all their customers coming in and wandering around and, grabbing little gold coins and putting them in their pocket on the way out. So this is a pretty normal thing. So instead of having your own people do the audit, you are getting a letter of certification that the gold is indeed there, and some additional work could be done where they should be having audits done of their own systems, and you can get that information. So that's what's happening here with this. So, like I say, at first, your first reaction when you see this is, oh, this is bad, but don't worry about it so much. That's pretty normal, and I personally, it does not alter my confidence in the audit results. All right, next thing is, all right, when you do an audit, you're comparing what should be there with what actually is there. Now, in most businesses, in a situation like this with physical inventory, we would be going to the accounting systems and we would be looking at and auditing the reports that they're giving us, telling us what they have in stock, what should be there. Why? Well, because what if you missed a division, or you're starting to do business in some new country and somehow somebody did not modify the report to include that gold and silver, right? Well, you want to make sure it's right. Well, it's different here because Kinesis has made all of this available on a publicly available blockchain. I personally have no idea how to access the blockchain or how to retrieve the transactions off of it, but personally, forgive me again, I'm okay. I don't need to, but if you want to, I'd love if somebody in the Kinesis community would go ahead and do this. I mean, we should be able to tabulate the exact number of KAUs and KAGs, and it should tie out exactly with this number right here, although you got to know what day that they're doing the report. But you should be able to see the transactions. So we do not need to do key report testing, right, to make sure that whatever report they gave us is accurate, because the blockchain itself can be used to substantiate by any of us to reconcile it to what's actually in inventory. I hope that made sense. All right, so this is what they should have, and this is what they actually had. Now you notice there's just a fraction of a gram, less than 1 gram difference in the gold and less than 1 ounce difference in the silver, which is amazing. We're talking about millions of ounces here. That's really good. That's really good. Allocated Bullion Exchange is the parent company based in Australia, although I think their offices are in London. And Kinesis Cayman is the business unit, the division, if you will, of ABX. That is what we know as Kinesis. All right, so doing business as Kinesis.money or Kinesis. I did some more research on ABX. ABX is a privately held company. It is not a publicly held company. Now, with a publicly held company, there would be some additional information available to us about the corporate structure and all that kind of stuff. So I did have a little bit of a question here. We know we have Kinesis Cayman. Is that all there is, or are there other divisions that might accidentally be, or that could be Kinesis related, that maybe should be included in this audit? I just don't have that information available. I tried really hard. I just could not find anything about the corporate structure of Kinesis. If somebody knows how to do that in Australia, let me know. Let's talk about this Bureau Veritas. Bureau Veritas is the company that has been doing their audits. This company is well known. I mean, I knew about them before I knew about Kinesis. One of the things that I wanted to highlight here was look at their geographic dispersity. So they have staff really all around the world, while Kinesis is using vaults all around the world. So there are not many companies that know how to audit commodities, physical commodities, and have a worldwide presence like this. But Bureau Veritas is a company that I trust, so I love their manifesto. So on their website, here's the CEO, and they have a manifesto, and the first word of their manifesto is trust, right? This is an audit firm. Their job is to help organizations gain trust with their customers and such. This is what they do. I love this manifesto, by the way. It's really cool. All right, another thing we learned through the audits here is that the inventory for Kinesis is managed through the parent company's, ABX, vaulting management system. So the inventory system is corporate-wide, and then the gold and silver related Kinesis is flagged as being related for gold or for Kinesis, but it's tracked through one system, so there's not a separate computer system for Kinesis.money. I actually think that's okay, because first off, we're doing these audits and such, right, to look for any mistakes, but also Kinesis has so much going on with software development. Do we really want them to be, writing inventory systems and accounts people? Now let corporate take care of that and use their systems. So I'm okay with that. And now for a couple of areas of concern. I'm an auditor, right? You can always ask more questions. So by and large, I want to be clear. I'm into the fine points here. I mean, overall, what we're seeing here with these audits is really, really amazing. There's a level of transparency here that you just don't see with other companies. I mean, you can look at these audit reports and you can see locations and bar numbers and serial numbers and the exact count of the different types of coins and everything. There's a level of detail here that's really, really impressive. So my comments here are, we're into the 90% I like it, 10% I think it can be improved. Okay, so let's keep that in context. I would like confirmation that Kinesis Cayman is the only business unit of ABX that is related to Kinesis and might have holdings of gold. So the audit is very, very clear that this is for Kinesis Cayman. Well, are there any other business units that are Kinesis that might require us to have physical gold and silver? I would like to know the answer to that. So I would like them to publish the corporate structure, or at least point us to where we can find the corporate structure, so we know that this audit is thorough and includes all the aspects of Kinesis that we care about. Okay, so I'm on a certain page here in the report. The auditors record an exception, so there's some kind of discrepancy here in this one location. Perhaps the serial numbers were different. We just don't know. But the auditors, by nature of their obligations, they would be obligated to disclose here if there was some kind of a big issue. So there's some kind of variance here, but I mean, if it was a big one, they would be morally and legally obligated to disclose that here. So I don't think it's a big thing. I just wish they would tell us what it was to put our minds at ease, right? The audit report's supposed to make us comfortable. All right, next thing is they make a reference here in some of these documents to the, quality assurance framework and the compliance framework. So I'm trying to understand the terminology here. I think these probably are frameworks that the vaulting service has. So, for example, in these audits, the vaulting service has been providing the scales that they would use to weigh the stuff. Well, the scales have to be calibrated once in a while, right, and inspected to make sure they're accurate. So that's the kind of thing that would be in the quality assurance framework or the compliance framework. Just a little clarification here is, are we talking about a Kinesis quality assurance framework and compliance framework? Are we talking about the vaulting services frameworks? And here's my last concern. This actually is the biggest concern of all of these. Okay, so look at this one here. The holdings were kept segregated from other account holdings within the vault. Okay, what does it mean? What does it mean with account holdings? Does this mean Kinesis has one, cage, steel cage that has all their stuff for Kinesis plus their other businesses, right? Like the ABX exchange? Or does this mean that Kinesis has its own cage, and then the ABX and the other portions of the ABX businesses with their gold and silver, those are physically segregated in another cage? Now, why is this important? Well, if you give somebody a report saying, here's all the gold and silver that should be Kinesis related inside this cage, but there's more gold and silver there than that, how do you know if they're not borrowing from one stack to the other stack, right? You don't know that. So I just think some clarification here would be good. If they're commingling gold and silver from Kinesis with other parts of the ABX business, then there should be an audit step here where they are reconciling not just the Kinesis portion, but the other portions to make sure that nothing's missing, right? Because it's in one physically consolidated area. So somebody going in there to move materials around would have access to either stack, right? And how would you know which is which? And how would you know that all the gold and silver are in there that are supposed to be in there unless you had reports from the other parts of the business beyond Kinesis money that showed what else should be in there, and they counted that as well. You've got to count both stacks, right? The Kinesis money plus the other ABX money. So, but on the other hand, if Kinesis has its own cage, then we're good, right? But we just don't know. So here's my conclusions. Beautiful. I love what they're doing. I have high confidence that the gold and silver is there. You know, you can always raise more questions like I've done, right? But at some level you have to sign off in your head and say, hey, you know what? This is really, really good compared to anything else I can see. And for me, that's kind of my situation here. So I want tokenized gold and silver. I want it physically backed. And an audit like this really, really gives me comfort. So can it be improved? I think it can be improved. And perhaps Kinesis management can pick up some of my suggestions here. So, all right. Wow. Whew. That was a lot. God loves you. Have a great day. Peace.